On this episode of the Hit It Here podcast, we're going to be talking about a few roster moves the Mariners may be making either today or tomorrow, as well as some shows in Seattle, a tough few games versus the New York Yankees. And this is episode 10 of the Hit It Here podcast. Joe, 10 episodes. How you feeling?
I feel good about this 10th episode, man. I'm feeling good. I wish the games have gone better against New York, but we'll get to there soon. How are you feeling about episode 10? And,
The Jared Kelnick episode? I feel pretty good. I feel like this one will hit. Somebody will finally click on this one.
Let's
I
go.
feel it in my bones.
Let's go.
So you already talked about it a little bit, but the first few games against the New York Yankees, obviously we had Bryce Miller and Logan Gilbert both get shelled. The Aaron Judge show showed up in the biggest way possible. A couple of 10-run games given up by the Mariners pitching staff, one of the best pitching staffs in all of baseball. What do you think went wrong for the first two games against the Yankees?
I don't know. That's a tough. There's not just one answer. I know a lot of people were calling for Scott to pull Bryce Miller about 2, 3, 4 batters before, and I agree that kind of just throwing him into the wolves might not have been the best thing, but I don't think he's taking it any negative way. I think he's already made comments like, I'm already moving past it. I thought I was, throwing my stuff. I just missed some spots. They hit the ball and it fell, and voila, 8 runs. His ERA ballooned. The magic is over for Bryce Miller. It was bound to happen. Maybe not at that scale, not that level of explosion, but Bryce Miller wasn't going to be perfect forever, and I'm not mad that it happened against the Yankees and Aaron Judge, the literal god of baseball right now. Second game, in terms of pitching, I didn't see the Geno boot, the miss, maybe the close strike 3 call to Judge that then allowed the inning to continue. The one that I was just taken aback by, the fact that Volpe hit it where he hit his home run from. I thought it was a pretty decent pitch. It's a little bender, front door, low. And he just happened to get around it, get his barrel to it, and blasted it. Made it a 6-run ball game and chased Gilbert pretty early. I don't think it's necessarily a bad pitch. He probably wanted it a little bit lower, which had it been, he swings over it, and crisis averted. It's no longer a 6-run game at that point. I just felt like, they're not hitting their spots, I think, as well as they were. And you played the Athletics for 4 games. You played the Pirates, who have been scuffling their last 20 games in total. The Yankees are a legit ball club. They're playing really good baseball right now as well, even with, some injuries to their main guys. This is a test, and right now we're not necessarily passing as well as we would have wanted.
Yeah, and Bryce Miller, he just could not hit his spots in his outing. I know people are mad about Scott not pulling him. I'm not. I don't know. I'm kind of indifferent about it because at one point he's got to struggle at some point, and I understand that he kind of got left out there to dry, and Scott could have pulled him and put in Chris Flexen to give Chris Flexen at least some reason to be on this roster.
Yes.
It'll probably all change in a couple of days anyway when Flexen gets DFA'd. We'll talk about that here in just a few minutes. But I don't know. I also don't hate the idea of letting Bryce Miller go out there and see if he can work it out. Give him his first real test. Obviously, it's the first time he struggled at the big league level. Let's see what he can do at the big league level. His game plan, he strayed a little bit away from throwing mainly just a fastball. I think he threw only 50% fastballs in the start against the Yankees compared to the 80% he threw against the Braves, for example. And his velo was down. Which
he was sitting, in the first inning it was fine. I feel like he was sitting 97, 98, and he was dotting, and Umpire was wearing, a mask over his eyes, didn't want to call strikes. It was very depressing. So maybe at that point he's just trying to locate more with his velocity going down. I'm not Bryce Miller. Shocking. I know. If I'm him and I'm not getting those calls, I'm probably going to try and slow it down a little bit, try and locate a little bit more. But then you're facing, the Bronx Bombers. He left a 94-mile-an-hour fastball. I think it was supposed to be middle in, maybe a little high and inside. Left it just middle and out over the plate, and that got smacked hard. I was like, oh, there it goes. There it goes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree with what you're saying, though. His game plan, he definitely strayed away from it, I think, once he kind of got in some trouble. And I think it'll be interesting, too, to see how he bounces back in his next start. Right? It's one of those things where this isn't just a test of one game. This is going to be a test for the next couple outings. Because if he gets shell-shocked and then, doesn't have it after this for the next 1 or 2, that starts to beg more questions about the longevity, if you will. I'm not necessarily super worried about something like that quite yet. I would probably wait another like 1 or 2 starts, but it is just something to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, his next start will be against the best offensive team in all of baseball right now in the Texas Rangers. So that should be fun. In terms of the blown calls by the umpires there, I'm going to force you to put up the screen graphic of the ump scorecards for that game for Bryce Miller. Just that first like inning or so just disgusts me. I mean, you're right. It forced him into the middle of the zone. It forced him to fight his mechanics a little bit, and probably somewhat attributed to his lack of velocity and his lack of command later in the game. So again, I'm not too worried about Bryce Miller. I'm not worried about Logan Gilbert. At this point, we have now seen all of the pitchers have a bad start. Yeah. Bryce Miller was kind of the last guy who we were like, okay, he hasn't, and I guess George Kirby until he had the game against the Pirates.
Yeah.
Bryce Miller was the last guy to have a blow-up game. So we've seen, okay, these guys are human. Obviously, best pitching staff in pretty much all of baseball. I know The Athletic put out an article about that, and ever since then, the Mariners have gotten shelled. So, shout out Ken Rosenthal. I don't even know if he's the one that made that. But jinx. Shout out The Athletic. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
The umpires. Terrible. And CB Buckner hasn't even been behind the plate yet. He will be today on Wednesday.
Horrendous.
Bad.
I know the guy in last night's game. I think it was his second time ever behind home plate. I don't know his name. I saw the tweet and I was like, oh, that adds up. That makes sense. There have been some good umpire crews. I feel like there's, the few and far between where like, oh, they're doing a good job. This one, I just feel like they're trying to control the game. And you put in the notes, ump shows. It's Major League Baseball, not Major League umpiring, right?
Did you see the John Boy breakdown of what Tom Murphy said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I could read his lips plain as day.
Yeah,
as soon as the camera stayed on him, I'm like, oh, he's getting tossed.
Well, the fact that the umpire tossed him after saying that about CB Buckner, which, by the way, is widely known. CB Buckner is garbage at umpiring. It's just a fact of life. I mean, the amount of calls that he has missed just in this series. There was the Kelnick
the stolen
base. Yeah, that one. He missed another play at first base in yesterday's game with Ty France missing the tag. Although, albeit, obviously, the runner didn't touch first base at all at first either, but nonetheless.
Ty France should be a car salesman because he sold me. I was like, oh, he tagged Greg Allen 100%. And I was watching the replay. I was like, oh, maybe not.
Yeah, and so Murphy getting run within the first 5 seconds of him telling CB Buckner just how bad he is at his job. And then Service getting run telling whoever that umpire was how bad he was at his job within the first 5 seconds. It's like, what are we doing here? I understand that it's your second game behind the plate, but I'm not here to see you. You're going to be replaced by robots next year, and I could care less about what you do.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. The umpiring this year, we've talked about how bad it's been, and maybe it's been better, and we're just harping on something that's actually not there because it's just the easy cop out to harp on.
The scapegoat.
But I don't know. It's been pretty atrocious, and allegedly for the Wednesday game, the last game against the New York Yankees, we'll have CB Buckner behind the plate, and by golly, there's a reason why Angel Hernandez has not been behind the plate very much at all this year, if at all. I don't even know if he's actually umped a game behind the plate so far.
I don't know yet. I could not tell you.
Buckner is going to be. He's up there. He's up there with Angel Hernandez.
Who would you rather have behind home plate, CB Buckner or Laz Diaz?
I'd rather have my blind cousin back there who literally called a ball on me when I swung at the pitch because he is legally blind. Nick, if you're listening, I love you.
Hearts. Oh, that's great. That's a great anecdote to include. Yeah, it's just I don't know, man. The zones I feel like have just been kind of inconsistent as well for the majority of the year, but let alone just in this series. And I don't know. I made a tweet probably within the first inning of the first game that the Yankees paid the umps. I was just I'm ready. I'm fired up. I'm ready to just call it now, like I see it. Don't care. Full stop. It's against us the entire time. And it might not be, but that's just how it feels right now. And it's probably because we're getting down by the Yankees. So a little bit of copium.
Like you said earlier, the Yankees have been good lately. So getting dicked down by the Yankees isn't that surprising, but it does kind of seem like maybe they threw a few juice balls in there in this batch. They were like, whoops. Oh, they were like, think about the Powerpuff Girls intro, right?
Sugar, spice, everything nice.
Since I accidentally poured in a bunch of freaking juice balls.
Yeah, Aaron Judge is going to hit 60 home runs again.
Yeah, yeah, and that'll be 20 behind what Pete Alonso hits this year. So.
Yeah, it's dude is just really good at baseball. There, it's hard, man. It's hard seeing him just tee off. I feel bad for AL East teams having to play Judge so much. Mm-hmm. And I get that people probably feel that same way about us having to face Ohtani and Trout.
And Alvarez,
I would rather face. I would keep Aaron Judge away from me. In the last two calendar baseball seasons, Aaron Judge is on my no. I don't want him here. Dude is a menace.
And eventually, maybe the Mariners will have a guy like that, like Julio Rodriguez, who's been playing really well. God, what a good segue, Colton. Thank you, Colton.
AL Player of the Week, mind you.
Yeah, well done. True. Julio's been good. He's been really good. Did he have another multi-hit game in Tuesday's game? Did he have a couple hits?
I don't even know if he got a hit. He reached on an error. That Volpe booted. I don't know if he got a hit. Right. I think his hit streak, 6 multi-hit games in a row, ended. He went 0 for 5, 2 Ks.
Shame. All right, well, never mind. Forget I said that. Yeah, Julio still has been great.
He's really good.
Obviously, he's been hitting the ball really, really hard, and we've seen a few bombs out of Julio, and he's also, like you said, with the 6 multi-hit games in a row, I think that's the record, right, for the Mariners? Or did that tie the record?
Yes.
All right, sounds good.
I can tell you guys he's leading the team in home runs in May with 5.
Let's go.
Starting to pick back up. He's tied with JK for the lead for the whole team, but in May alone, he's definitely turned it up.
Yeah, and I mean, realistically, the whole team has turned it up in May, which has been really nice to see, which we'll get into a little bit here as we get closer to the end of the podcast, talking about how May went for the Mariners. But having Julio be Julio is what is going to take this team to the next level. Do you think he should stay in the 3 spot? I know we've talked about this a little bit, but
on my way home from work today, I was thinking about a Ty France grounded into double play for whatever reason, and it had me wondering about what a lineup shift might look like, because Ty he hasn't been bad. He's definitely been pretty good.
3 hits. 3 hits on Tuesday.
Yeah, right. Albeit there's sometimes a little jam shots off the handle of the bat, but Ty gets the job done. With that being said, I might be inclined to moving Julio to the 2 spot. But then where's Ty France hit? Does he hit 3? But then that just creates the same problem we kind of had before, where Julio was leading off, Ty France is batting second, grounded into double play machine, go. So then where does Ty go? Does he get moved down? You can't really move him down because the guys behind him aren't necessarily hitting overly well that much better than him. So I don't know. The only place I would move Julio is up 1 to the 2 spot.
Yeah, I think JP has a lock on that leadoff spot right now. He's been so good since he's been up there. And before stream, we talked about the possibility of, maybe, hey, JP Crawford All-Star? If he keeps playing like he has been, I think there's an outside shot that JP Crawford is an All-Star in 2023.
I was looking at sortable stats on MLB.com by position, American League, OPS. I think JP's 4th right now.
For shortstops?
Mm-hmm. Qualified batters, right?
In the AL?
In the American League, yeah. I want to say Wander Franco, Jeremy Pena, and probably Bo Bichette were in front of him. I don't think it's that order, though, because Bo leads the league, or all of them will be in hits. I can't remember which one, or he was at some point. He's having a good year. So he's 4th. Hometown, realistically, you could see those numbers his all-star votes getting juiced up a little bit. And that's a great thing, because it's starting today at noon. So you guys make sure you get your frickin' votes in every single day until the end of time, or until voting ends. But all the Mariners in your spots, but JP's got to be in there. I think he'd be, if there's one guy that was other than Jared Kelenic, JP, I feel like has earned it for us so far.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that we're already at the time where All-Star voting starts. And obviously this first round is based on fan voting, and then it'll go to tiebreakers and whatnot, all that good stuff. Or, hey, these are the guys who are on the cusp. Vote for them. This is a good chance for the Mariners fans to show, hey, we're behind this team, and the game's finally coming back to Seattle. I think voting for JP and all the guys, throw Colton Wong in there. Why not? Don't throw Jose Caballero in there. He was terrible.
Yeah, he's
pretty bad. God.
He's
He
pretty
was
bad.
so bad in Tuesday's game. I would have rather seen Colton Wong up there. It's true.
I
So you
believe
know
you.
who else? You know who else was really bad? Who else was just freaking terrible?
I mean, a lot of people were pretty bad.
Sam Haggerty. Oh my God.
Yeah, I don't know what
He
they're doing.
looked so terrible. Which is why the Mariners need to make some roster moves, baby. I'm thinking. Okay. We don't necessarily know about Dylan Moore. The rumor was he was going to be back during this homestand. Homestand ends today.
He was at T-Mobile today, no?
No, he was. He played. Well, he might have been, but he played in the Rainiers game tonight or Tuesday night.
Oh, okay.
Went 0 for 5.
Okay.
He's hitting 211 down there. But the fact of the matter is he got back into a game, which is good. But he had a little bit of a setback a few days ago, I think, where he just felt general soreness, which is good. I mean, it's not like he didn't feel like, oh, my oblique is ripped in half.
I need to be shut down again level.
Yeah.
It's just soreness, which is, I think you're saying, is normal for getting back into, playing shape.
Right. So I don't necessarily know if that pushes him back a few days. Like maybe we see him, at the end of the Rangers series or something like that. Andres Munoz, however, said that he was going to be probably only needing 2 to 3 outings, and he pitched on Tuesday down in Tacoma, and he threw an inning, struck out 2 on 19 pitches.
Mm-hmm.
So he looked really
he
good.
was sitting
throwing
98, 99,
Yeah.
and then he was mainly throwing sliders. I don't remember if it was Shannon Dreyer or someone. I just saw something that said Dylan Moore was in T-Mobile Park, blah, blah, blah. He won't be, with the team as part of, like, the roster, but will be in Arlington, is what I thought I saw. So, if I'm right, I'll put that on screen right now. If that's changed, then what you're saying, a little bit of a setback, maybe a couple games. But I think it was foolish to have Sam Haggerty in this game tonight. Or in last night's game. I get that it's a lefty. You want to play the matchups. But, and, you're supposed to get Jared a day off against the lefty. Sure, it makes sense. He banged his head against the wall really hard. I was worried.
Yeah, me too, dude. I was like, that kind of looked like he just broke his freaking neck.
Yeah. And so it makes sense to give him a day off there. I don't know who I would have rather seen, but Sam Haggerty at the DH was not it, Chief. Not it.
I'm not sure if there is a person at DH that I would feel worse about than Samuel Haggerty.
Yeah, it just hasn't worked out this year for him. And I feel bad because you want it to work out, but it's just not. And it's the same situation with like Colton Wong. It's just not working out in certain situations. So what do you do? And you're just waiting on Dylan Moore to come back. So I hope it's for the series in Texas.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Haggerty, we've talked about this before. Haggerty's the guy that's going to go down. The interesting move that was made was Darren McCacken, of course, coming up for Juan 10 throwing a couple of innings. So they were like, hey, go back down to Tacoma. Or they might have even sent him to Double-A. I'm not sure.
He got optioned to Tacoma.
Did he go to Tacoma? And then McCacken came through 3 or 4 innings in that second game of the series. So I would assume before the Yankees game, he's going to go back down. I would not be shocked because they're not going to use him, of course. I would not be shocked to just say, screw it, bring up Munoz. He looked good in his one rehab outing. Just bring him up.
Yeah.
And call it a day. He's back. It's possible. Otherwise, maybe I don't know.
It could be a similar situation with like when they were playing, what was it, the Guardians? When they brought up McCacken, sent him down, brought up Bukowskis, sent him down. I wouldn't be surprised McCacken goes down and we see a Riley O'Brien or something like that, just to be in the pen for a game, just in case, it goes haywire. Because I don't think they had Gilbert leaving after, was it 4 innings?
Something like that,
right?
Yeah.
I don't think they had that penciled in and make their bullpen even more stretched out. They used Gott and Saucedo, which I thought was interesting. I don't know why they didn't just go straight to McCacken unless they were trying to get to, like, say, the 7th inning, and there's like, all right, ride it out till the end of the game kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know.
With those roster moves being said and over with, I haven't, and correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't seen much about Penn Murphy recently. Has he really gotten into any games? I don't know. Like, I'm genuinely asking.
Next question.
All right, Joe, how do you feel about the Mariners signing a couple of interesting pieces? I wouldn't call them impact, but Adam Engel and Pedro Severino have both signed with the Seattle Mariners over the past few days on minor league deals. How do we feel about those deals, and do you think they ever play any sort of impact role for the Mariners in the near future?
Barring injury, knock on wood, no, probably not. I feel like it is just organization depth at this
Hmm.
point. Adam Engel is, I think, 5 years removed from where I'd say he could be potentially impact piece at the major league level, but I I really just haven't seen him. I saw the name and I was like, this is the name. This happened. Sure. Our outfield is just too stacked, or like it's just too crowded, right? So I don't really see it happening. For Severino, I mean, he's catcher. So I think that is where his value lies, is like if Cal's neck starts, getting a little tight, they're not giving him enough neck massages. Tom gets suspended because he fights CB Buckner. Then therein lies where Pedro Severino comes into play. And we utilize him to catch a couple games because Lord knows we don't want Cooper Hummel back there. And Harry Ford's not ready yet.
So, for a little bit of context here, in 2022,
Mm-hmm.
Adam Engel hit 224, 269, 310 with a 64 OPS plus.
And how many at bats?
260.
Oh.
In 2021, in 140 at bats, he hit 252, 336, 496 with 123 OPS plus. So he wasn't bad
Okay.
per se in 2021, albeit it's a few at bats. So,
Yeah.
like you said, he's a guy that I obviously bats right, throws right. He's 31 years old. Maybe he is insurance if AJ Pollock just doesn't work out, right? And it's not good insurance. Or maybe, let's say Taylor Trammell, they just want to send him down, get him right, have him play every day. They bring up Angle to be that fifth, like, emergency outfielder. But at that point,
Yeah.
maybe Dylan Moore's back, so you don't need that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like you said, Pedro Severino, he's depth. I mean, I don't really remember the last time Pedro Severino was ever anything more than depth, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. In 2022, okay, well, he only had 21 at bats. In 2021, he had 419 at bats. He hit 248, 308, 383 with an 88 OPS plus. He's only had an OPS plus above 100 once in his career, and that was in 2016 and just 34 plate appearances. So
That
Pedro
2021 season, is that with the Pirates? Where's he
Baltimore.
at? Baltimore. Was he ever with the Pirates?
Nope.
Maybe I'm thinking of Pedro Alvarez.
Those are
Vastly different people.
very different people, yeah. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think either guy is going to play any sort of role for this team, barring an injury. I think there are plenty of people ahead of them.
Yeah.
I know that for Angle, Marlowe hasn't been that great, but Dylan Moore is a guy who can come up and let's say you want to send Taylor Trammell down. Dylan Moore is your fifth outfielder at that point.
Yeah.
Good enough.
If I had to pick out of the, kind of cluster of outfielders there, that would be quote unquote the fifth outfielder. Angles at the bottom of the list behind Haggerty, behind Trammell. And, Pollock and Moore would be in front of them. But yeah, I would still put Angle at the bottom of that list.
And I think I would put Brian O'Keefe above Pedro Severino for sure. And I mean, honestly, I might even put Hummel above Pedro.
Yeah, I was kind of just kidding about Hummel's. It's mainly just his catching ability that I was kind of clowning on. But yeah, I would put Hummel as a talent over Severino for sure.
And so you obviously talked about like Tom Murphy possibly getting suspended for fighting CB Buckner, who's going to be the umpire behind the plate in the final game of the Yankees series with Clark Schmidt versus our boy George Kirby. Obviously, George had a bad start against the Pirates, where again, the guy from the Powerpuff Girls accidentally mixed in a few extra juice balls. And what do you think about that with Buckner behind the plate, Kirby on the mound? How we feeling?
I mean, Kirby's a master of control. He's got his zone and where he likes to throw, and he's not scared to kind of get inside on some peeps. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see kind of where Buckner's zone forms. You can kind of see trends on those umpire scorecards where, oh, this is a Laz Diaz zone. This is a, so and so zone. I don't remember what Buckner's looks like, but I want to say there's always like a hole in it somewhere where like it shifts to the other side, if that makes sense. So I'll be curious to kind of see how George kind of dances around that, whether or not they adapt to it early on. I will say I have a question, kind of a question and comment.
Yes.
So they asked George about his start and what he's gonna kind of like look back on. Blah blah. He goes, "I never watch any of my starts back. I just whatever." I don't. Was that a real quote? Do you know?
I personally never saw it.
Okay, because I saw it,
So,
and he just said like, yeah, I just move on to the next one. I don't watch any of my starts back to see like what went wrong.
hmm.
It's kind of just like a clean slate, which I thought was interesting. Oh, like an interesting way to go about your role, if that makes sense. Like, sure, the pitching staff and the coaching staff will be like, hey, don't throw your fastball down the middle of the plate. Smile. It's catching too much plate. And then George like, yes, and then he throws it high and inside, low and he's starting to like go to the edges, but I don't know if that's true. I don't know. Like, would you be worried about George in the start against the Yankees if he just got shelled by the Pirates and he's like not gonna necessarily worry about what happened? He's just gonna be like, yeah, I'm just kind of on to the next one.
I mean, based on the Yankees' offense the first 2 games, I would say yeah, but I'd be worried about anyone up there.
Sure.
So just with how good the Yankees' offense have looked overall, I mean, George will be fine. Some of the home runs that were hit off of him in that game, they were just fluke home runs, man. Like they weren't bad spots.
Yeah.
And so yeah,
That
which
Brian
one
Reynolds one was
that was Reynolds. Yeah, that was like
hilarious.
18 feet above the zone, and he stood on his wads of cash that he got from the Pirates and hit it. Yeah, I don't know. It's like you can say everything you want about what's been happening in Seattle during this homestand in terms of balls flying out of the park all of a sudden. But needless to say, I think George will pitch with a bit of a chip on his shoulder. He's pissed off. He's gonna be pissed off about this whole thing. He's gonna be mad that he got shelled by another, C team, the Pirates.
Okay, it did take me a second. I will be honest with you.
It was the battle of the seamen. I think that Kirby's going to pitch with a chip on his shoulder. I'll be interested to see how he attacks Judge because obviously George Kirby will throw everything in the kitchen sink at you with how many different pitches he has. Whereas with Miller, we were like, okay, how is he going to attack Judge? He's got his fastball. He's got like 18 different sliders.
Yeah.
What's he going to use? But realistically, you knew it's either going to be that slider or that fastball for Bryce Miller. Kirby, you have no idea what he's going to. He might throw a knuckleball. Who knows? Just to really mix it up. And so if anybody can dice up the Yankees and put them kind of in their place after giving up 20 runs in 2 games, I think it's George Kirby. So
it's going to have to be.
I'm not worried about it. Yeah, exactly. It has to be George Kirby because if not, oh boy, by the time the Mariners are flying to Texas, the bullpen is going to be running on fumes.
Yes, I will. Before we move on, I found it. It's a Seattle Times article by Adam Jude, and the first bit of this article just talks about the start against the Pirates, and then says even after good starts, Kirby said he doesn't bother to go back and review his performances, and then quote, "I definitely won't be watching this one. That's for damn sure." End quote is what Kirby said. So yeah. Just kind of like reinforcing that. I think that could be good for him in this situation. It kind of puts his mind on a clean slate. And you're talking about, the final game in New York, then we fly to Texas. This final game in New York, even if it's a loss, and I don't want it to be, but even if it's a loss, we still went over 500 on the homestand at the end of the day.
And even if it's a loss, the Mariners were still really, really good in May. They won, I think, 5 or 6 more games they did last year in May, and the Mariners went to the playoffs last year. I'm just saying. Am I saying there's going to be a 14-game winning streak in there?
Yes.
Probably not.
Oh.
Texas is not going to be easy to start off June. They're a very good hitting ball club. We already saw that once. Although, honestly, the Mariners pitching kind of held Texas down.
It was in Seattle, though. I feel like Texas plays better at home.
True, but we just saw how well the ball flew in Seattle this week. So maybe...
Yeah.
A little juju, there's a little something going on there.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting few games because obviously it'll be so we have Kirby going against the Yankees, then we'll have Castillo. So I think it'll be Castillo, Marco, and Miller, yeah?
Should be. And then a day off, and then 2 games against the Padres, and then a day off. So we play 10 games in a row and then get 3 days off within a 7-day span. Thanks. MLB scheduling.
Yeah, really, really awesome. Really cool of them.
Very cool.
The dumbest schedule I've ever seen. So, I was looking... Okay, I have a gripe. We're in the deep end. I have a gripe.
Oh, okay.
I was looking at the schedule earlier. I think it was on Tuesday. And there is a series A 4-game series. So the Mariners just randomly fly to LA to play the Angels, and they come back. They're at home. They're like, let's go to LA.
No days off.
Go to Disneyland. I don't know, but
Sure.
the fact that it's a 4-game road trip, it's one series.
Yeah. Like, what's
That's
the point?
Stupid.
At least go and play the Dodgers.
Yeah, knock them out while you're down there. Why are we leaving for 4 days only to come back to Seattle? I'd be pissed.
I mean, you get to go to LA.
Yeah, you get to go play the Los Angeles Angels at Disneyland. I can go ride the Dumbo ride. That's it. That was my gripe.
That's honestly, it's a pretty fair gripe.
Thank you.
I'll let you have that one.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. You know what else we appreciate?
What's that?
You guys watching this episode of the Hit It Here podcast. Thank you for enjoying this for 10 whole episodes. We're just going to keep going, baby. Watch this video on the screen right now. I don't know what it is, but click it. We appreciate you. Goodbye.